This Sunday is a very special day on the calendar, and no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the other thing. That's right, NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day taking place on the WWE Network. Welcome to SCW here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. As I say, NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day is this Sunday. This is the predictions video. We've got 5 very important matches to talk about here today. Going to give you my thoughts and my predictions for the show. And let's just say this has got to be one of the most unpredictable takeovers in recent times. I had some initial picks for this show, but they have been changing back and forth in places as we've gone towards today. So let's go through the match card now. I'll give you my predictions as they stand now, and I will stick with them from here to TakeOver. So let's start with the NXT Championship, shall we? Let's start with a match I'm really looking forward to seeing. That's right, Finn Balor defending against Pete Dunne. This, for me, has screaming NXT TakeOver main event all over it. I think this could be a spectacle like we saw, a couple of takeovers ago with Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly. This has all the ingredients. Pete Dunne was carrying that NXT UK brand for a long, long time, and now we're going to see, England versus Ireland, if you want, for the NXT Championship. And let me just say, I think it's going to be a 30-minute spectacle between these two. Finn Balor has been doing some of the best performances of his WWE career since coming back to NXT on the TakeOver stage, especially since becoming champion once again. So for me, this is going to be an epic encounter, but to give a prediction, I am going to go with Finn Balor to retain the NXT Championship. I think we are heading towards WrestleMania weekend with Finn Balor defending that championship against Karrion Kross, who is not going to be on this show. He'll be defeating Santos Escobar next week on NXT. So I think we're leading towards that. I think perhaps we wouldn't be surprised to see Scarlett or Kross appear towards the end of this show. We get the face-off and we build the match here with Kross and Balor going into WrestleMania. But Finn Balor will retain the NXT Championship in my opinion, but I do think that this has the potential of Balor and Dunne to be a 5-star classic. Next, let's talk about the North American Championship, shall we? Let's talk about Johnny Gargano taking on Kushida. And let me just say, I am loving the Gargano way. I am in absolute fits this week watching Johnny Gargano trying to get himself out of this match against Kushida. The fact he doesn't want to face him is almost like a curse to say Kushida's name. The fact as well, was it Johnny Wheelchair? Was it Johnny Doctor Boy? It's certainly, must remember, it's usually Johnny Takeover, and that's usually where Johnny Gargano does his best work. Kushida is looking still for me for that breakout moment. I think we had glimpses of it last year, but a great takeover match could really propel Kushida to the next level in NXT. But for me right now, looking at things, Gargano has been frightened going into this match, but I do think he will escape with the championship. I do think, a Gargano escape perhaps could be the way he could do it, but certainly I think Johnny Gargano does retain it, perhaps with the help of the way. I think Johnny Gargano will retain the championship here. Kushida, in my opinion, should be the guy going for Santos Escobar. I think that would be a perfect Cruiserweight Championship match in NXT, but for right now, I think when we look at the North American Championship picture, Gargano, it's the way. He needs to keep the belt, in my opinion. Let's go to where it really starts to get a bit difficult for me. Let's talk about the NXT Women's Championship triple threat match now. We've got Io Shirai, we've got Toni Storm, and we've got Mercedes Martinez here. It's been building up really well with these 3 ladies. Mercedes Martinez, of course, almost coming back to NXT and just dominating from the start, cutting the line, so she's going straight to the front there, taking out Io Shirai on multiple occasions. Toni Storm, of course, has the history of Io Shirai winning the Mae Young Classic. The fact she said for months she was going to be the one to become the next NXT Women's Champion. We've now found where both of them were going to be partners in the Dusty Classic. Didn't quite work out for either of them, thanks to Io Shirai. Here we go, we've built ourselves to a triple threat match. And now to pick a winner, this is very, very difficult because it's hard to bet against Io Shirai. She's been so dominant as the champion. But you look at the contenders and you think at one point, one of these contenders is going to do it. And for me, in my opinion, I think Toni Storm screams NXT Women's Champion. I think I can see it there. I can see her holding that championship a couple of times she's done. Usually it can be a curse, but the fact she's not done it on the Go Home show, there is opportunity that I think maybe the belt could change hands. For Mercedes Martinez, she's been chasing this for 20 years, but I sadly feel for her she's going to be chasing it for a bit longer. I see her taking the fall here at this takeover. I feel that that's possibly the reason she's in this triple threat match. I think the long-term vision here for WrestleMania weekend is Io Shirai against Toni Storm. Now, for me, I was going to predict Io Shirai to actually retain the championship. I thought perhaps Storm and Mercedes Martinez would cancel each other out. And also, I think there's only one other match you can have for Io Shirai going forward after this, and that would be Raquel Gonzalez, who's been on a roll herself, but, well, let's just say her direction or her vision has been directed in a different place, going for the Dusty Tag Team Classic. So maybe we're not going to get that as the fallout. Maybe the fallout is the one-on-one match between Io Shirai and Toni Storm. And I don't know, I've just had this feeling that it could finally be Toni time. And hey, I mean, Toni Storm, she's a heel now, she's got momentum. And Io Shirai, she won the championship, in my opinion, unexpectedly in a triple threat match. She's been dominant. But also, why couldn't she lose that belt in a triple threat match? It also could be a way to keep her protected. So I'm going to go for the swerve here. Instead of Io Shirai retaining, it's been a long, lengthy championship reign, and I don't think it's been boring at any point, really. I've been really happy to see Shirai as champion. I'd be happy to see her remain as champion. But I'm going to predict Toni Storm picks up the victory, and it leads to Toni time. Toni Storm against Io Shirai at WrestleMania weekend. However that's been, if it's on Mania, if there's a takeover around then, I think that's where it's going to be heading. I'm predicting Toni Storm will become your next NXT Women's Champion in an absolute shocker. Last but not least, let's look at the Dusty Tag Team Classics. We'll look at the women's section first, and I think, to be fair, when we look at the tournament, I think it's gone kind of almost straightforward as you would expect. I think the main shock there in it was the fact that Toni Storm and Mercedes Martinez lost in the opening round to Casey Catanzaro and, of course, to Kaden Carter. But you wanted that face-heel dynamic going all the way through, and we've got that through to the final here. And our finalists, we've got on the face side, Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart. On the heel side, we've got Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. Now, I've already spoke about a little bit about Raquel Gonzalez, and I think I'll speak a little bit more here. I do feel that she is someone that's been groomed to become a big deal in WWE. Now, whether it's to become a future NXT Women's Champion, perhaps being the one to dethrone Io Shirai at a later date, that certainly is a possibility. Certainly, if she doesn't win the Dusty Tag Team Classic. But let's remember, the winner of this cup is going to get a future Women's Tag Team Championship opportunity. Now, before this tournament started, I said Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez would win the tournament. They were the right people to win it. I'm usually more of a fan of teams winning this tournament than seeing two single stars thrown together to do so. But Shotzi and Ember, they're good friends, and we must remember, we must look at the Women's Tag Team Champions right now. And at the time of recording, that's Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, two heels. Let's not forget also, Ember Moon has history on the main roster on SmackDown and Raw, so Ember Moon would be no stranger to going back up there and competing. And if WWE wants to do something with the Women's Tag Team Championships on that environment, or if they come down to NXT, you would feel that if Ember was to go to Raw, SmackDown, not that she would necessarily be a ratings draw, perhaps a ratings difference to what they've got already, but people watching at home would be familiar with Ember's work. It wouldn't be so, out of the blue to see her there. But if you wanted to do the reverse, and let's say, for example, those Women's Tag Team Championships change in the near future to Lana and Naomi, perhaps it could go to the Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. And let's look at it here, because those two, then, remember, if they were to win the championships, I think the next, or one of these teams should become Women's Tag Team Champions, because not only being number one can they be defended in NXT with this fantastic women's roster we have in NXT, but also number two, there's something very important here. They can go onto Raw and SmackDown, and they can become familiar with the whole wide of WWE audience. Let's not forget, NXT doesn't get the amount of viewership that Raw and SmackDown get. So perhaps there's a chunk of the audience that's still perhaps not as familiar as they should be with some of these ladies' work. And particularly when you look at the Raw Rumble, we saw Ember, we saw Shotzi, we saw Dakota. We didn't see Raquel Gonzalez. And to be fair, if she was to be put on Raw and SmackDown, I would see her really getting over in a big, big way. So it all depends really what happens with these Women's Tag Team Championships. If I had to use my head, I would say I think Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart walk away here as the victors because, as I said, Shayna and Nia are the current Women's Tag Team Champions. But I said at the start here, Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez would win this tournament. I'm sticking with it. I'm going to go with it because of the fact that I feel that those belts for the women's championships could change. Naomi, she's on a roll since coming back. Lana as well, actually defeated Nia Jax in a tables match this week on Raw. What's to say they couldn't win the belts and then Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez face them, win the championships, and then get time on Raw SmackDown? I mean, Dakota Kai has been floating around NXT for a good couple of years. It would be, you'd feel time to put them up to perhaps Raw and SmackDown. And I think Raquel Gonzalez, if she was to go to Raw and SmackDown, would be a massive deal. I think almost she could actually jump over the NXT Women's Championship, just like Bianca Belair did. So I wouldn't be surprised for that. So it's taken some time to get here talking to you here on this video, and I hope you've stuck with me. But Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, for the reasons I've given, I'm still going to go for them to win the Dusty Women's Tag Team Classic, a first ever as well. Let's go on to the men's side, and I do think it's been a predictable tournament, but I do think we've got a very exciting final. MSK, who have come absolutely out of nowhere, but of course you'd be familiar with them as the Rascals from Impact Wrestling. It's great to see Nick Carter and Wesley, their new names they've been given, actually come to NXT and, you know, take over by storm. It's great to see it against the grizzled young veterans of Zach Gibson and James Drake. Now, for me, this potentially could be the start of a long-term feud between these two teams throughout NXT, whether it's involving the Dusty Cup, whether it's involving championships, whether it's involving #1 contenderships. I think these two teams, this is the birthplace of the start of the rebirth of the tag team division. Because let's be real here, the NXT men's tag team division has been suffering for a little while now, certainly over the last 12 months. They're looking to try and rebuild this tag team division. With these two teams here, you really have something, a good base to work on. These are the two newest teams who have come into NXT, and I think these are the two teams that make the difference. When you see other great tag teams like Imperium that you've got in there as well, you know, we can see elsewhere in there, Legado del Fantasma as well, and enjoying their work together as a team. Yes, we have Drake Maverick and Killian Dane that are adding the comedy value into this, and Breezango will be another team that can throw in the mix as well. And let's not forget our champions, Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. And the Undisputed Era, arguably, they're still floating around, they'll always be there. That NXT tag team division is looking a lot healthier. But looking at this final here, again, you must look and say the winners will get a tag team championship opportunity, and your current champions are Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. At the start of this tournament, my pick was the grizzled young veterans to win everything, but we've got to the final, and while I did think deep down the Undisputed Era would have been a costly opportunity to actually get to the final, I also thought that perhaps there was a chance that the UE could have been winning the championships from Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch this Sunday. That match has not come about. We've not built towards that. We had a bit of stuff been building towards it, but nothing like to the sorts of what I thought we'd get in a storytelling kind of way. So that's off the table. So for me, my pick is now going to change. I'm going for MSK to make the shock. They're the new team on the block. They're going to come in and they're going to win the whole lot of the Dusty Cup. And the Grizzled Young Veterans then would be losers in the finals for 2 years in a row, which you know are absolutely great on Zach Gibson, which may give some fantastic promo work going forward. It gives them a chance to want to get revenge from MSK as well, which could start this great feud between these two teams going into the future as well. And as I said, MSK, if they were to go there and then win the championships, I do believe then they've got a lot of teams to be facing with. This NXT tag team division would feel very fresh very, very quickly. But I would be happy to see either of the teams, in fact in all of the Dusty tag team finals, both sets of the finals. I'm happy either way, but I'm going to stick with those predictions. So for the women's, I'm going to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. For the men's, I'm going for the shock of everything. MSK, the new kids on the block, will come in and win the Dusty Cup, which is a complete reverse to the prediction I've had the whole way through this tournament until this week. So that's it. That's my predictions for NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. Let me know your predictions in the comments below. I look forward to interacting with you. And like I say, comments, likes on the videos, they help the channel grow and a big way. So I really do appreciate anyone's support. Anyone that does want to leave a like or leave a comment, I really do appreciate it. On the road to 800 subscribers as well, currently on 792 at the time of recording. So please, let's get it to 800. Would love to hit that milestone. Other great videos available for you as well. If you're an Impact fan, tomorrow, No Surrender predictions will be coming up. If you're a fan of AEW, of course, perhaps a bit of a taboo subject here. Perhaps if you're an NXT fan and New Japan Pro Wrestling, the 10 dream matches that I've put together of AEW versus New Japan is available on the channel for you right now. But that's all for me. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a great day. You'll be watching SCW here on YouTube. All the best.